My name is Melissa Grant. I'm 37 years old. At 7:06 on a Saturday evening in June, I found my name on the seating chart in the back corner of my cousin's wedding reception, beside the emergency exit, the DJ's speaker cables, and a table of people I had never met. Not near my parents, not with my cousins, not with the rest of the family. Table 19. The last table. The one with a wobbling leg. No floral centerpiece, and a view of the service hallway where waiters carried trays of rolls under silver cloth. I stood there in my dark blue dress, holding a small gold clutch in one hand and the envelope with my wedding gift in the other, reading the card again as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something less insulting. Melissa Grant. Table 19. My cousin, Brittany, the bride, had told me 2 weeks earlier that seating was so complicated because of family dynamics. I knew what that meant. Family dynamics was our polite phrase for the fact that I was divorced. Not widowed, not separated. Divorced. In my family, divorce was treated like a contagious weather pattern. Something people whispered around, prayed about, and blamed quietly on the woman, unless the man had committed crimes visible from space. My divorce had been final 14 months earlier. My ex-husband, Aaron, had not been cruel in a dramatic way. No affair revealed at a birthday party, no stolen money. No secret second family. He had simply become smaller inside the marriage and expected me to shrink with him. He resented my hours, my law practice, my independence, my unwillingness to apologize for being better at earning money than he was at keeping promises. Eventually, he told me I made him feel unnecessary. I told him that was not the same as being unloved. He left anyway. I grieved. I rebuilt. I kept my job, my dignity, my house, and my last name because it was mine before him and remained mine after. My family did not know what to do with a woman who survived divorce without becoming apologetic, so they made me symbolic. At bridal showers, I was placed near older widows. At family dinners, people stopped asking about my dating life and started asking if I was staying busy. At church, Aunt Carol once squeezed my arm and said, "God restores what we break," as if I had smashed my marriage like a vase. And now, at my cousin's wedding, I had been placed at table 19 because someone thought my marital status might stain the happy couples. I would have laughed if my chest did not hurt. Behind me, the ballroom glittered. White roses. Crystal chandeliers. A live violinist near the bar. Gold-rimmed chargers. Tall candles in glass cylinders. A 4-tier cake. The whole room smelled like lilies, perfume, and expensive chicken. At the head table, Brittany smiled under a cloud of curled hair and veil. Her new husband, Daniel Whitmore, sat beside her, looking handsome, nervous, and relieved. My Aunt Linda dabbed her eyes. My Uncle Paul raised a glass towards someone across the room. My parents sat at table 3 with the bride's immediate family. My younger sister Megan sat at table 4 with cousins and their spouses. No empty seat for me. Not accidentally. Carefully. I felt someone come up beside me. Megan. She looked at the seating chart, then at my card. Her mouth tightened. "Oh, Mel." I smiled softly. Table 19 has character. Mom said Brittany didn't want awkward energy near the family tables. I turned to her. She said that? Megan looked immediately guilty. She said divorce is still fresh and weddings can be emotional. Whose emotions? She did not answer. I looked back at the card. Let me guess. Aunt Linda said I was bad luck. Megan winced. That was enough. Bad luck. A 37-year-old attorney with a clean credit score, a stable career, and a healed heart had been reduced to a cautionary symbol beside the emergency exit. I placed my gift envelope back inside my clutch. Megan whispered, "I'm sorry." "I know. Do you want me to switch seats with you?" "No." "Melissa?" "No," I said calmly. "They chose this." What no one in my family knew was that I had already spent 3 hours that week reviewing an urgent prenuptial agreement issue for the groom's mother, not as a family favor. Professionally, quietly, Mrs. Evelyn Whitmore had called my office after being referred by another attorney. She did not know I was related to the bride at first. She was worried about a last-minute legal document tied to a family trust, a property transfer, and a business interest Daniel needed protected before certain wedding-related financial arrangements became active. The signing had been delayed because one attorney missed a courier deadline, another had a family emergency, and the document required a final witness and attorney certification before midnight to preserve the trust condition. A strange situation. Not impossible. And I had agreed to attend the wedding, prepared to review final pages discreetly if needed. Because I am a family law attorney. Because I have handled prenuptial agreements, marital property waivers, trust-related spousal acknowledgments, and enough last-minute wedding paperwork to know love may be romantic, but asset protection keeps office hours. My family knew I was a lawyer, of course. They loved mentioning it when someone needed free advice about traffic tickets, landlord letters, estate confusion, or whether a neighbor's fence was legal. But tonight I was not useful yet. Tonight I was bad luck. So I walked to table 19, sat beneath the draft from the emergency exit, introduced myself to a retired couple from the groom's side and a college roommate who had clearly been placed there for similar social misfit reasons, and unfolded my napkin. At 7:42, just as the salad plates were being cleared, a woman in a silver dress crossed the ballroom quickly, eyes scanning tables with controlled urgency. Evelyn Whitmore, the groom's mother. She found me at table 19. "Miss Grant," she said, breathless but composed. "I am so sorry to interrupt dinner." My mother, from table 3, turned sharply. My Aunt Linda looked over. Brittany noticed too. Evelyn leaned toward me and lowered her voice, though the nearby tables went silent anyway. "We need your signature." I looked at her. "Now?" "I'm afraid so. The trust attorney just called. The final certification page has to be signed before the reception continues with the property announcement. Daniel and Brittany are both ready, but we need the attorney acknowledgement and witness attestation." Across the room, my Aunt Linda's face changed. Brittany's smile froze. My mother's hand went to her necklace. I stood slowly. Table 19 watched me like the second act had begun. I smoothed my dress, picked up my clutch, and said, "Of course, where are the documents?" Evelyn exhaled in relief. "In the bridal suite." Then she said, clearly enough for the closest family tables to hear, "Thank God you were here. You are the only attorney in the room." This is that story. Before I tell you how my family learned that the woman they hid in the back corner as bad luck was the only person who could save the groom's legal deadline, tell me where you are watching or listening from, and what time it is there. I always wonder who hears stories like this while remembering the moment people dismissed you until they needed your signature. And if you connect with stories about women who were judged, excluded, underestimated, and quietly took their power back, like and subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. Some women do not beg for a better table. Some women wait until the important document needs signing. I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, in a family that treated marriage like a diploma and divorce like academic probation. My parents, Richard and Elaine Grant, had been married 42 years. Happily? That depended on how much honesty you wanted with dessert. They were loyal, steady, and careful in public. My father worked in insurance. My mother taught elementary school and ran every family gathering with the precision of a military campaign and the emotional subtlety of a church bulletin. There were 2 daughters. Me first. Melissa. Responsible, ambitious, serious. The girl who read contracts for fun before she knew they were contracts. The teenager who asked why family loans were never written down and was told not to make things uncomfortable. Then Megan. Sweet, agreeable, eager to keep peace. She married young, had 2 children, and became the kind of woman our relatives knew how to praise without fear. Wife. Mother. Soft voice. Matching holiday pajamas. Family card photos in pumpkin patches. I loved my sister. But loving her did not stop me from noticing that she fit into the family frame more easily than I did. I went to law school at the University of Louisville and specialized in family law after clerking for a judge who once told me, "Marriage is where people make promises." Divorce is where paperwork asks what they meant. I loved the clarity of law, not because it was cold, but because it made people define what they had been pretending was obvious. Property, custody, support, debt, agreements, names, rights, responsibilities. I learned quickly that women are often expected to treat legal protection as unromantic until someone else benefits from the absence of it. The symbolic object in this story was my fountain pen. Black enamel, silver clip, medium nib. My father gave it to me when I passed the bar exam. He had engraved my initials on the cap, MG, he said, for signing important things. At the time, I thought he was proud of me without complication. Maybe he was. But pride in our family had conditions. They were proud of me when my work made them look successful. They were proud when they could say, "Our daughter, the attorney." They were proud when neighbors needed advice, and I could produce impressive words like affidavit or fiduciary. They were less proud when my legal training taught me to recognize dysfunction at home. They were proud of my marriage, too. Aaron was handsome, well-spoken, from a good family, and worked in commercial lending. My mother liked that he wore blazers to brunch. My father liked that he played golf. Aunt Linda called him solid, which later became proof that people can confuse posture with character. We married when I was 30. For the first few years, we looked good from outside. A brick house, 2 careers, dinner parties, holiday cards, a golden retriever named Henry. No children yet, by mutual agreement at first, then by silence, because every conversation about timing turned into Aaron feeling pressured and me feeling alone. The marriage weakened in private. Aaron resented my court schedule. He resented clients calling after hours. He resented that I could argue without crying and cry without apologizing when alone. He began saying things like, quote, "You handle conflict all day, so you bring that home," whenever I asked him to participate in our life. He wanted a wife who admired him more than she questioned him. I wanted a partner who did not interpret my competence as an insult. By year 6, we were roommates with shared mortgage documents. By year 7, he told me he wanted out. At first, I begged. I am not ashamed to say that. People think strong women do not beg. They do, sometimes. Strength is not never reaching. Strength is knowing when the hand reaching back is not love. Aaron moved out in February. The divorce finalized the following April. I kept the house because I bought out his share. He kept the dog because Henry had always loved him more, which felt like one final betrayal by a creature with no legal understanding. I kept my name, my work, and my ability to sleep diagonally in a bed that no longer contained disappointment. My family responded with casseroles and quiet blame. Mom said, "I just hope you tried everything." Dad said, "Marriage takes humility." Aunt Linda said, "Sometimes careers make women hard." Megan cried and said she was sorry, but even she asked, "Do you think maybe Aaron felt second?" Second. As if partnership were a podium, I survived the divorce, but my family treated survival as suspicion. At weddings, people lowered their voices around me. At anniversaries, they avoided seating me near newlyweds. At baby showers, women asked if I was open to meeting someone, as if divorce had turned me into a damaged appliance needing replacement parts. I became careful about family gatherings, not because I was fragile, because I was tired. Then Brittany got engaged. Brittany was my cousin, Aunt Linda's daughter, 29, beautiful, dramatic, and raised to believe attention was a form of nutrition. She had grown up idolizing weddings. Not marriage, exactly. Weddings. Dresses, flowers, photographers, choreographed dances, signature cocktails, hashtags. The holy theater of being chosen publicly. Her fiancé, Daniel Whitmore, was different from our family. Polite, thoughtful, a little reserved. He came from money, but not flashy money, old professional money. His mother, Evelyn, owned a boutique wealth management firm. His late father had been involved in medical equipment distribution. There was a family trust, business interests, and a summer house in South Carolina that Aunt Linda started calling, quote, the coast property, before anyone invited her to see it. When Brittany announced the engagement, Aunt Linda cried for 10 minutes and then immediately began discussing color palettes. The family shifted into wedding mode. I helped at first. Not with legal work, with normal cousin things. I recommended a florist. I reviewed the venue contract because Brittany asked, then told her to have the payment schedule corrected. I helped my mother choose a dress. I sent a generous shower gift. I attended the bridal shower and smiled when 3 different women said, "Your turn next, Melissa," then remembered and looked horrified. Brittany became strange around me as the wedding got closer. Overly sweet. Performative. She said things like, "I'm so glad you're coming. It means a lot that you can still celebrate love." Still. As if love had died in my house and I was attending its funeral with lipstick on. 2 weeks before the wedding, Aunt Linda called. "Sweetheart," she said, which meant she was about to insult me gently. I wanted to talk about the reception. What about it? There are some delicate seating considerations. Okay. You know Brittany wants the energy around the family tables to be joyful and uncomplicated. I leaned back in my office chair. Uncomplicated. With newly married couples and engaged couples, sometimes it's better not to place people who are in painful transitions right in the center. I looked at the framed bar certificate on my wall and reminded myself that assault was illegal. My divorce was final over a year ago. I know, honey. I am not in active emotional quarantine. She inhaled sharply. That's not fair. No, Aunt Linda, it is exact. She lowered her voice. No one is judging you. Then why are you calling? She paused. Brittany is superstitious. There it was. Not theology, not compassion, superstition. About me? About divorce energy. I laughed once. Divorce energy? She just doesn't want anything negative near the head tables. I said, you understand I negotiate prenuptial agreements for a living. That's different. No, it's actually very relevant. Melissa, please don't be difficult. It's her day. Her day. The phrase used to excuse bridal cruelty from coast to coast. I said, seat me wherever you like. She sounded relieved. Thank you for understanding. I didn't say I understood. Then I hung up. I considered not going. Megan begged me to come. Don't let them make you disappear, she said. That surprised me. So I went. The legal call came 4 days before the wedding. My assistant buzzed into my office. Melissa, I have an Evelyn Whitmore asking if you handle urgent premarital property acknowledgments. I looked up. Whitmore? Yes. Put her through. Evelyn's voice was smooth, controlled, and just slightly strained. Ms. Grant, I received your name from Thomas Hale. He said you are discreet and fast. Tom is kind when he wants me to take his emergencies. She laughed once. I need both discretion and speed. She explained the situation. Daniel was beneficiary of a family trust with certain distribution provisions tied to marital status and property acquisition. Before the wedding, he and Brittany had signed a prenuptial agreement through separate counsel. That part was done. But a related spousal acknowledgement and limited waiver connected to a property transfer had been delayed because Brittany's attorney requested revisions, then approved them, then had a medical emergency before final certification. The document did not take anything from Brittany unfairly. It clarified that certain inherited trust assets and premarital business interests remained separate, and that any wedding-related announcement about the Charleston property would not create a marital claim. I listened carefully. Has Brittany had independent counsel? Yes. Has she reviewed and approved the final form? Yes, in writing. Is Daniel pressuring her? No. Is anyone trying to surprise her? No, the opposite. I want this clean. Good. Evelyn continued. The complication is timing. There is a family presentation at the reception. Daniel's uncle intends to announce a trust-funded gift related to use of the Charleston property, but the trust attorney says the acknowledgement must be finalized before that announcement, or we risk creating ambiguity. Brittany's attorney cannot attend. We need a Kentucky family attorney present to review the final packet, confirm no material changes from the approved version, witness signatures if necessary, and sign a limited attorney acknowledgement. I rubbed my forehead. At the wedding? I am afraid so. Does Brittany know? Yes, she is annoyed but aware. Does she know I'm related to her? A pause. You are? I am her cousin. Another pause. Well, Evelyn said, that is either convenient or combustible. I smiled. Usually both. I can find someone else. You may not have time. I do not. Send me the documents. She did. I reviewed them thoroughly. There were no traps. Brittany had her counsel's written approval. Daniel's separate property rights were clear. The acknowledgement was formal, necessary, and limited. The trust attorney's deadline was real. I agreed to be available at the reception if needed, with strict boundaries. I represented no party in the marriage, only provided independent attorney acknowledgement of document consistency and execution formalities. Brittany had to confirm on record she had reviewed with her own counsel and was signing voluntarily. Evelyn agreed. Professional, direct, respectful. How refreshing. She asked if my family knew. No. Do you want them to? No. Understood. The wedding ceremony was beautiful. I will say that. Brittany looked radiant. Daniel looked genuinely moved. The church was full of white flowers and candlelight. Uncle Paul cried when walking her down the aisle. Aunt Linda sobbed into a lace handkerchief, like she had personally invented motherhood. I sat 5 rows behind the family reserve section, of course. Megan tried to save me a seat near her, but an usher quietly told me the row was for couples and immediate family. Couples. I almost asked whether divorce had affected my blood relation. Instead, I sat behind a college friend of Daniel's who smelled like cedar cologne and kept whispering baseball scores to his date. During the vows, Brittany promised to honor Daniel in sickness and health. I believe she meant it. People often mean vows when they say them. That is both the beauty and tragedy of weddings. At the reception, I found table 19. The retired couple beside me introduced themselves as Harold and June Whitmore, distant cousins from Daniel's side who had been married 51 years and seemed delighted to have someone to talk to. The college roommate was named Graham, recently sober and apparently seated far from the open bar by design. Table 19, he said cheerfully, the island of reputational risk. I laughed for the first time all night. Harold leaned in. What did you do? I said, divorced. Graham nodded. Recovery. June patted his hand. Harold and I voted for a third-party candidate once. Maybe that's why we're here. I liked table 19 more than expected. That is often the secret of back corners. They contain the people too honest or inconvenient for curated tables. Across the room, my family occasionally glanced at me, then away. Aunt Linda looked relieved I had not made a scene. Brittany avoided my eyes. My mother gave me a small, pitying smile from table 3. My father raised his glass slightly, as if that compensated for seating geography. I ate my salad. Then Evelyn arrived. We need your signature. I stood. Every family table watched. I followed Evelyn through a side hallway to the bridal suite, where Brittany, Daniel, the maid of honor, a trust attorney on video call, and a notary waited around a coffee table covered in documents. Brittany's face went pale when I entered. You? She said. I smiled politely. Me? Evelyn looked between us. I understand this is family, but Ms. Grant is here in a professional capacity. Brittany's jaw tightened. I didn't know Melissa was the attorney. I said, that makes 2 of us who didn't receive seating information in advance. Daniel looked down, either hiding a smile or praying. Evelyn's mouth twitched. The trust attorney on the laptop cleared his throat. Can we proceed? I sat, opened the packet, and removed my fountain pen. The room changed. I have noticed this throughout my career. People may dismiss you at dinner, at church, at family parties, in gossip, in seating charts. But once the legal document is on the table, and you are the only person who knows how to read it correctly, the air around you changes. I reviewed the final version against the approved red line. No material changes. I confirmed Brittany had received independent legal advice. She said yes. I asked whether she had questions. She said no. I asked whether she felt pressured to sign because of timing, family expectations, or the wedding reception. Her eyes flicked toward Evelyn, then Daniel, then me. No, she said. I held her gaze. Brittany, I need a real answer. She swallowed. No, I'm annoyed by the timing. But I understand the document. My attorney reviewed it. I want to sign. Good. Daniel signed. Brittany signed. The notary notarized. I signed the attorney acknowledgement with my black fountain pen. Melissa Grant, Esquire. The ink dried dark and clean. Evelyn exhaled. Thank you. I capped my pen. You're welcome. Brittany looked at the document. then at me. "I didn't know you did this kind of law." I looked at her. "Yes, Brittany, divorce energy comes with paperwork." The maid of honor coughed. Daniel turned his face away. Evelyn looked directly at Brittany. "Divorce is not bad luck. Poor judgment is." The room went silent. I almost applauded. Brittany's cheeks flushed. "Mrs. Whitmore." Evelyn held up one hand. "We will discuss manners another day. Right now we have guests waiting." She turned to me. "Ms. Grant, would you please return with us? Daniel and I would like to acknowledge your assistance before the property announcement." Brittany looked alarmed. "That's not necessary," Evelyn said. "It is." I looked at my cousin. For the first time all evening, she understood that tables can turn without anyone raising their voice. We returned to the ballroom at 8:15. The band had paused. Guests murmured. My family watched me walk in beside the groom's mother like I had crossed a border they did not know existed. Evelyn went directly to the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Before Daniel's uncle offers a family toast, I want to briefly thank someone who helped us resolve an important legal matter this evening with professionalism and grace." My mother's face went still. Aunt Linda's mouth opened slightly. Evelyn continued. "Melissa Grant, Daniel and Brittany's cousin, is the only attorney in the room tonight, and we are grateful she was here." Applause began, small at first, then spreading as people realized this was not optional politeness. I stood near the edge of the dance floor. Evelyn gestured toward me. "Some people bring luck to weddings by catching bouquets. Some bring it by making sure families understand what they are signing." A warmer laugh moved through the room. Not at me. With her. My father looked down. Megan smiled openly. Aunt Linda looked like she had swallowed a lemon wedge whole. Then Daniel's uncle made the announcement about the Charleston property usage, trust provisions, and a family gift toward Brittany and Daniel's first year of housing expenses. It was elegant, careful, and legally safe. Because I had signed. I returned to table 19. Graham lifted his water glass. "To reputational risk." June said, "Two useful women." Harold added, "And third-party voters." I laughed. For the first time that night, the ballroom felt breathable. I need to pause here for a second. If you have ever been hidden in the back because people judged your life, then watch those same people need your skill. You know exactly what Melissa felt walking back into that ballroom. It was not about revenge for a seating chart. It was about the difference between being treated like bad luck and being the only person who could keep the night from becoming a legal mess. If this story is hitting close to home, leave a comment and tell me when your family dismissed you until they needed what you knew. And if you have not already, subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. The quiet part is over. The reception became uncomfortable in the most satisfying way. People did not know whether to approach me. Divorce had apparently become less contagious now that my signature protected a property announcement. My mother came first. She stood beside table 19, clutching her evening bag. "Melissa, honey." I looked up. "Mom." That was impressive. "Was it?" She flinched. "I mean, yes, of course." I waited. She glanced toward Aunt Linda. "I didn't know they would seat you all the way back here." That was a lie, so thin light passed through it. I said, "Yes, you did." Her eyes filled. Brittany was anxious. About my divorce energy? Mom closed her eyes briefly. "Megan told you." Aunt Linda told me enough. She sat in the empty chair beside me without asking. I should have said something. Yes. I didn't want to upset Linda before the wedding. So you let them humiliate me instead. Her voice dropped. "Melissa, humiliating is a strong word." I looked around at the emergency exit, the cables, the missing centerpiece. Accurate words often are. She swallowed. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" She looked tired suddenly. "For letting them seat you away from the family. Because you're divorced. For acting like your divorce made you fragile or unlucky. For not defending you. That was better than I expected. Thank you." She touched my hand. I let her. Then I said, "I'm not moving tables now." She looked confused. "Do you want to?" "No." Her face softened sadly. "Okay." She went back to table 3. My father came later, not with words at first. He brought me a slice of cake. It was too large, because he had never understood dessert portions, and because guilt is generous when it is late. He set it in front of me. I was proud of you tonight. I looked at the cake. I wish you had been proud before the microphone. He absorbed that, then nodded. Me too. It was not a full apology, but it was a start. Megan hugged me near the restroom. I should have sat with you. You offered. I should have done it anyway. Maybe. She pulled back. You're allowed to be mad at me too. I am. She nodded. Good. I'll earn my way back. That was why I loved Megan. She had our family's fear of conflict, but not its addiction to denial. Brittany did not speak to me until after the bouquet toss. I did not participate. Obviously. I watched from table 19 while unmarried women were herded onto the dance floor like livestock being judged for optimism. Brittany threw the bouquet. It landed in the arms of a 14-year-old cousin who looked horrified. Everyone laughed. Then Brittany appeared beside me. Her veil was gone. Her curls were loosening. Her makeup still looked perfect because money can do many things. Can we talk? She asked. I looked at my half-eaten cake. Here? Maybe outside. I stood. We walked to a terrace overlooking the golf course. The night air was cool. Music thumped faintly behind the glass doors. For a moment, Brittany said nothing. Then she whispered, I'm sorry about the seating. I waited. She looked at me. I was being stupid. Stupid is broad. She nodded. I was scared. Of me? Of marriage. That surprised me. She looked toward the dark lawn. Everyone keeps telling me today is perfect, and I keep thinking, what if I fail? What if Daniel and I don't make it? What if I become the woman people whisper about at weddings? I said nothing, she continued. When Mom brought up seating, she said maybe it would be better not to put you near the head tables because divorce is fresh. I said okay because I didn't want to look at someone who had survived the thing I'm terrified of. There it was, not superstition only, fear. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You made me your omen, I said, her face crumpled. Yes. That was cruel. I know. Do you? She nodded quickly. I do now. Because you needed me. She winced. Yes. I looked at her for a long moment. Brittany, divorce is not bad luck. Bad communication, entitlement, avoidance, disrespect, financial secrets, contempt, and refusing to listen are bad luck. She almost laughed through tears. You sound like a lawyer. I am one, remember? She wiped under her eye. I deserved that. Yes. She took a breath. Thank you for helping us anyway. I did not do it for you. I know. I did it because the documents were proper, Daniel needed the deadline met, and I take my profession seriously. She nodded. And because I didn't want your reception interrupted by trust litigation before dessert. That made her laugh, finally. Then she said, I'll apologize to everyone. No. She blinked. No? You don't need to make a speech about my seating. That will make it about you again. Her face flushed. What do I do? Start by learning that marriage is not protected by excluding divorced women from tables. She nodded. Okay. And send Aunt Linda out here. Brittany looked terrified. Good. Aunt Linda came 10 minutes later, wrapped in a champagne shawl and defensive perfume. Melissa, she said, Brittany said you wanted me. I did. She smiled tightly. If this is about the seating, I am sorry you felt hurt. I looked at her. That is not an apology. Her expression hardened. I was trying to protect my daughter's peace. From what? She sighed. Melissa, weddings are emotional. Your situation is still sad. My situation is my legal marital status, not a ghost story. That's unfair. No. What was unfair was seating me in the back because you thought divorce made me bad luck, then relying on my legal expertise when the groom's family needed protection. Her eyes flicked toward the ballroom. I never said bad luck. Megan heard you. Aunt Linda's mouth tightened. Megan should not gossip. Interesting lesson to take from this. She looked away. I continued, You do not get to use my divorce as contamination and my law license as convenience. That one landed. Her face reddened. I was wrong, she said finally. Yes. I'm sorry. For what specifically? She closed her eyes, annoyed that I required language. For treating your divorce as something shameful. For placing you away from the family. For not recognizing your value until someone needed your signature. It was stiff, but it was specific. Thank you. She nodded once and went back inside. I stayed on the terrace another minute, breathing cold air. Then Evelyn Whitmore stepped out. I hope I'm not intruding. Not at all. She stood beside me. Families can be brutal at weddings. That sounds like professional experience. Personal, too. She smiled faintly. My late husband's family once seated me with vendors because I was Jewish. I turned to her. At your own engagement party? Yes. What did you do? I married him anyway and bought the venue 20 years later. I stared. She lifted one shoulder. Petty investments can mature beautifully. I laughed so hard I had to cover my mouth. Evelyn smiled. Then she grew serious. You handled tonight with restraint. Some might call it shock. Restraint often begins as shock. We stood quietly. Then she said, If you ever want to discuss trust-adjacent family law work, call me. I know several firms that need someone who can remain calm while relatives behave badly. I smiled. That is unfortunately my specialty. She handed me her card. Not socially, professionally. I took it. Thank you. Also, she added, Daniel thinks very highly of you now. I barely did anything. No, Evelyn said. You did the right thing while being disrespected. That is not nothing. That sentence stayed with me. When I returned to the ballroom, Table 19 had somehow become popular. Graham was telling Harold and June about sobriety with surprising humor. Megan had joined them. My father hovered nearby, not quite brave enough to sit. A bridesmaid asked if I could explain what had happened in the bridal suite. I told her no, because legal confidentiality is not entertainment. She looked disappointed. Good. The rest of the evening passed without disaster. I danced once with Megan, once with my father, who apologized properly during the second verse of an old song. I'm sorry I treated your divorce like failure, he said quietly. I looked at him. Thank you. He blinked quickly. I didn't know how to help you after Aaron. You could have asked. I know. We danced in silence for a few steps. Then he said, For what it's worth, I never liked that he made you smaller. I swallowed. Why didn't you say that when I was married? He looked ashamed. I thought marriage meant not interfering. Sometimes silence is interference on the wrong side. He nodded. I see that now. That was one of the best conversations we had ever had. Near the end of the reception, Daniel approached Table 19 without Brittany. Melissa, he said, thank you. You're welcome. I'm sorry about the seating. That surprised me. Did you know? No, not until my mother explained after. I see. He looked genuinely embarrassed. I should have noticed. You were getting married. I'll give you that one. He smiled. Still, I'm sorry. Thank you. He hesitated. Brittany is embarrassed. She should be. He nodded. She told me what she said about divorce energy. And you still signed? He laughed, startled. I signed before I knew. I smiled slightly. Good luck, Daniel. He laughed again. I think I'll need it. You'll need communication, humility, and separate legal counsel when appropriate. He grinned. Romantic advice from an attorney. The best kind. He returned to his bride, and I found myself hoping they would be okay. Not because Brittany deserved a perfect marriage, but because no one deserves to learn respect only through collapse if they can learn it earlier. The family aftermath was interesting. For the first week, everyone overcorrected. Mom invited me to brunch 3 times. Aunt Linda sent a handwritten note. Dad called to ask about my week and did not mention work as a distraction. Megan asked if I wanted to go away for a weekend, just sisters. Brittany texted a real apology after her honeymoon. Melissa, I am sorry I let my fear and ignorance make you feel unwelcome at my wedding. I was wrong to treat your divorce like bad luck. You were gracious when we needed help. and I know we did not deserve that. Thank you for protecting Daniel and me legally, even after I hurt you, I replied. Thank you for acknowledging it. I hope you build a marriage based on truth, not superstition. She wrote back. Me too. Then, surprisingly, she added, can you recommend a couples counselor for premarital follow-up? I think we need to learn how to talk about fear. That was the first sign she might become more than a pretty wedding. I sent 3 names. Aunt Linda remained awkward for months. She did not like owing me respect. Some people are comfortable with affection but resent respect because respect requires behavioral change. At Thanksgiving, she almost made a joke about seating me near the dessert table because at least we know you're useful in emergencies. Then saw my face and stopped. Sorry, she said quickly. I said, good catch. She nodded and changed the subject. Progress. Evelyn Whitmore did call me. 3 months after the wedding, she referred me to a complicated trust and marital property consultation involving a family business, a second marriage, and adult children with opinions. That referral became one of my best professional relationships. Over time, I developed a niche in family law and trust-adjacent marital agreements for high-conflict families. The work was delicate, precise, and often absurd in ways only families with property can be absurd. I loved it. My fountain pen signed more important things. Not always dramatic things. Sometimes quiet protections. A waiver that saved a daughter from losing inherited land. A postnuptial agreement that clarified business ownership before resentment could poison a marriage. A mediated family settlement that kept siblings from destroying a trust over a lake house nobody wanted to maintain. A prenuptial agreement for a woman marrying later in life who said, I love him, but I love my pension too. I told her that was wisdom, not cynicism. The wedding changed something else. It changed how I saw my divorce. I had spent 14 months telling myself I was healed, while still quietly accepting my family's implication that divorce had made me less appropriate for joy. Less safe near beginnings, less qualified to celebrate love, less complete at tables designed for pairs. But that night, sitting at table 19, then standing in the bridal suite with my fountain pen, I understood something. Divorce had not made me unlucky, it had made me exact. It had taught me what happens when people ignore warning signs because appearances matter. It had taught me the cost of vague promises. It had taught me that legal clarity is not the enemy of love. Contempt is. Silence is. Fear dressed as politeness is. Family members who prefer symbols over people are. I did not ruin marriage by leaving mine. I honored marriage by refusing to keep calling a hollow one whole. 1 year after Brittany's wedding, she and Daniel invited me to dinner at their house. No occasion, no legal emergency, just dinner. When I arrived, there was a place card at the table. Melissa. Not cousin, not attorney, not bad luck, just my name. Brittany saw me looking at it. I wanted you at the table on purpose this time, she said. I smiled. Good. Dinner was nice. Not perfect, but real. Daniel cooked salmon. Brittany made a salad. Evelyn came too and brought wine. At one point, Daniel asked me about a case, then stopped himself. Sorry, are you off duty? I laughed. Yes. He nodded. Then tell us about your trip. My trip, my life, not my utility. That mattered. After dinner, Brittany walked me to the door. We're doing counseling, she said. I'm glad. It's uncomfortable. It should be. She smiled. I told the therapist I was afraid of divorce because of you. I lifted an eyebrow. And? She asked if I was afraid of divorce or afraid of accountability. I laughed. I like her. So do I, unfortunately. We hugged. It was careful, but sincere. My parents changed too, in their older, slower way. Mom stopped referring to my divorce as what happened with Aaron, and started saying when Aaron left, or after your divorce, which seems small unless you have lived with euphemisms. Dad began asking about my cases in a way that did not sound like he wanted free legal advice. Megan became fiercer about correcting relatives. At a baby shower, Aunt Carol said something about first marriages being the ideal, and Megan said healthy marriages are the ideal. I nearly dropped my lemonade. Later, I hugged her in the kitchen. She said, I'm learning from you. That may have been the nicest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. As for Aaron, he remarried eventually. I found out through a mutual friend. I felt nothing dramatic, no heartbreak, no rage. Just a small, curious sadness for the woman who would learn him in her own time. Then I wished them well in my head and went back to reviewing a property agreement for a client who wanted to protect her grandmother's farm. That is healing, not forgetting, not proving, returning to your own work without flinching. The final lesson is not that every excluded woman should wait for a dramatic legal emergency. Most insults do not come with a microphone, a trust attorney, and a groom's mother asking for your signature. The lesson is that being excluded does not make you lesser. Sometimes people seat you in the corner because your existence challenges the story they want to tell. A divorced woman at a wedding reminds people that vows require maintenance. A single woman at a couple's table reminds people pairing is not proof of peace. A competent woman with a painful past reminds people survival is not shameful. My family left me off the wedding table because I was divorced. Then the groom's mother asked for my signature. And when I walked from table 19 to the bridal suite with my fountain pen in hand, I did not become valuable. I had always been valuable. They simply needed something badly enough to notice. Thank you for staying with me through this story. I know some of you have been seated in the back, left off invitations, whispered about, pitied, or treated like a warning sign because your life did not follow the family-approved script. If Melissa's story reached you, I hope you remember that divorce is not bad luck, being single is not failure, and a woman's value does not depend on where frightened people place her on a seating chart. Keep your dignity, keep your skills sharp, keep your pen ready. Subscribe to Ultimate Revenge for more stories about quiet women, family betrayal, silent comebacks, and the moment the room finally needs the woman it tried to hide. So tell me, if your family seated you in the back corner at a wedding because your divorce made you bad luck, then the groom's family needed your legal signature to keep the reception moving, would you refuse, or would you sign professionally and let everyone understand who they tried to hide?